A teenage boy just wanted to buy his sister a birthday gift. A security guard saw danger. One taser shot changed everything, because the boy's father was a federal judge who could destroy her life. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The morning sun shone brightly through the tall windows of Riverside Shopping Mall. Karen Mitchell walked slowly through the busy corridors, her security uniform wrinkled and her badge hanging crooked on her chest. She had been working as head of security for 23 long years. Her face showed the tiredness of someone who had seen too much trouble and trusted very few people. Karen stopped near the food court and looked around with sharp eyes. She always believed she could spot troublemakers from far away. Her hand rested on the black taser attached to her belt, a weapon she had used many times before when she thought people were causing problems. Another boring day, she said to herself, watching families walk by with shopping bags and teenagers laughing with their friends. On the other side of the mall, something wonderful was happening. 16-year-old Marcus Williams walked beside his father, Judge Robert Williams, with the biggest smile anyone had ever seen. In his backpack was a letter that would change his life forever, an acceptance letter from MIT, one of the best colleges in America. "Dad, I still can't believe it," Marcus said, his young voice full of excitement. "MIT really wants me to come study there." Judge Williams looked at his son with so much pride that his heart felt like it might burst. He had taken the whole afternoon off from his important job as a federal judge just to celebrate with Marcus. "You worked so hard for this, son. All those late nights studying math and science, all those robotics competitions you won, all the times you helped other kids with their homework, it all paid off." Marcus wore a simple gray hoodie and blue jeans, looking just like any other teenager having fun at the mall. He had no idea that someone was about to change his life in the worst possible way. In his backpack, along with the MIT letter, were his report cards showing straight A's, certificates from science competitions, and photos from his volunteer work at the local elementary school where he taught kids about computers. As they walked past the big electronics store, Marcus suddenly stopped. His eyes grew wide as he saw the newest gaming setup displayed in the window. "Dad, can we look at this for just 1 minute? Please?" Judge Williams laughed warmly. "Okay, 5 minutes. Then we're going to get that special lunch I promised you to celebrate." Marcus ran ahead like an excited puppy, pressing his face against the cool glass window. The gaming system was amazing. It had lights that changed colors and screens that looked incredibly real. His father stood a few feet away, smiling as he watched his son's joy. Then Judge Williams' phone rang. It was his assistant calling about some papers he needed to sign tomorrow. "Hello, this is Judge Williams," he answered, turning slightly away to take the call. That's when Karen Mitchell's day took a dark turn. From across the mall, Karen saw what she thought was trouble. She saw a young black teenager in a hoodie standing near expensive electronics. She saw an older black man nearby talking on his phone and not watching the teenager closely. Karen's mind immediately jumped to the worst conclusion possible. "Possible shoplifter," she whispered into her radio, her voice full of suspicion. Black male teenager about 16 years old, gray hoodie, near the GameStop store. Older black male might be helping him steal. Karen started walking toward them, her heavy boots making loud sounds on the tile floor. Her hand moved toward the taser on her belt without her even thinking about it. She had used that taser 12 times in the past 5 years, and each time she told herself it was necessary to keep people safe. Marcus had no idea danger was coming. He was too busy looking at the amazing games and taking a picture with his phone to show his best friends at school. He wanted to text them about MIT and about this cool gaming system all at the same time. In Karen's suspicious mind, a black teenager taking pictures near expensive electronics could only mean one thing: he was planning to steal something. She never stopped to think that maybe he was just a happy kid taking pictures like millions of teenagers do every day. "Hey you," Karen's voice cut through the normal mall sounds like a sharp knife. "What do you think you're doing here?" Marcus turned around, confused and surprised. "Excuse me, ma'am? Did you say something to me? Don't act stupid with me, kid. I saw you looking around the store taking pictures with your phone. I know exactly what you're planning. Empty your pockets right now." Marcus felt his stomach drop. He had heard about things like this happening, but he never thought it would happen to him. "Ma'am, I'm just looking at the games. I'm not doing anything wrong." Judge Williams finished his phone call and looked up to see a security guard talking aggressively to his son. His heart started beating fast as he recognized what was happening. His brilliant, innocent son was being treated like a criminal simply because of the color of his skin. "There's been a mistake here," Judge Williams said calmly as he walked over. "This is my son Marcus. We're just shopping and having a good time. Karen looked at Judge Williams with disbelief. Oh really? And who are you supposed to be? I'm his father. My name is Robert Williams. Karen laughed in a mean way. Right. And I suppose you're going to tell me you're some important businessman or something fancy like that. Marcus felt his face get hot with embarrassment. This feeling was something he knew too well, the feeling of being looked at like he was guilty of something bad even though he had done nothing wrong. Dad, let's just leave. I don't want any trouble. But Karen wasn't finished. More and more people were stopping to watch what was happening, and this made Karen feel like she had to show everyone that she was in charge. Nobody is going anywhere until I search both of you. We've had lots of reports about people trying to steal things, and you both matched the description perfectly. This was a complete lie, but Karen had learned that sometimes lying and being scary worked better than telling the truth. Judge Williams felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm and steady. Ma'am, my son hasn't done anything wrong. We have every right to shop here peacefully without being harassed. Harassed? Karen's voice got louder. I'm the head of security here and what I say goes. Now, are you going to do what I tell you, or do I need to call the real police? Marcus looked at his father and saw pain in his eyes. Even though his dad was a powerful federal judge, even though he was educated and successful and respected, right now he was just another black man being treated badly in public with his son watching. Please, ma'am, Marcus said quietly, his voice shaking a little. We don't want any trouble. We can just leave if you want us to. Something in Marcus's polite, respectful voice should have made Karen stop and think. This was clearly a well-raised, educated young man who was trying to avoid conflict. But Karen's pride was hurt now, and all the people watching made her feel like she had to prove she was tough. It's too late for that, she said loudly. Turn around and put your hands against the wall so I can search you. Absolutely not, Judge Williams said firmly. You have no legal right to search us. We haven't done anything that would give you probable cause. Karen's face turned red with anger. In all her 23 years working security, no one had ever challenged her authority so directly. Her hand moved closer to her taser. I have probable cause, she lied. Suspicious behavior, taking pictures, refusing to follow security orders, and now resisting what I'm telling you to do. Security orders? Judge Williams couldn't hide his shock. You're a mall security guard, not a police officer. You have no more legal authority than any other regular citizen. More people were gathering now to watch the confrontation. Shoppers were taking out their phones and starting to record what was happening. Karen felt trapped and embarrassed. Her authority was being questioned in front of dozens of people, and she didn't know how to handle it. This is your last warning, she said, pulling out her taser and holding it where everyone could see it. Put your hands on the wall, both of you, or I'm going to use this. Marcus's eyes went wide with terror. He was only 16 years old and he had seen the terrible videos on the news. He knew how quickly situations like this could turn deadly for people who looked like him. Dad, he whispered, his voice cracking with fear. Judge Williams stepped protectively in front of his son, his heart breaking as he saw the fear in Marcus's young eyes. Please just let us walk away. This doesn't have to get worse. But Karen was beyond listening to reason now. The people questioning her authority, the growing crowd of watchers, the phones recording her every move, it all came together into a perfect storm of bad judgment and terrible decisions. Get away from the suspect, she yelled at Judge Williams. The suspect. Judge Williams' voice carried all the authority of his years in the courtroom. That suspect is my 16-year-old son who just got accepted to MIT with a full scholarship. Karen laughed bitterly, not believing a word. MIT? Yeah, right. And I'm the Queen of England. That's when Marcus made the mistake that would change everything. He wanted desperately to prove his innocence and show this angry woman that he really was a good student. He reached into his backpack to get his acceptance letter. I can prove it, he said desperately, his voice shaking. I have the letter right here in my bag. The moment Marcus's hand moved toward his backpack, Karen's training, or what she thought was training, kicked in. In reality, it was fear, prejudice, and a complete failure of good judgment all mixed together. Gun! She screamed at the top of her lungs, even though there was no gun anywhere. The taser made a terrible crackling sound as it came to life. 50,000 volts of electricity shot through Marcus's young body. He shook violently for several seconds before falling hard onto the cold tile floor. His MIT acceptance letter scattered out of his bag and spread across the ground around him. The entire mall became completely silent except for the echo of Karen's scream and the horrible sound of Marcus's body hitting the floor. Judge Williams dropped to his knees beside his son, his hands shaking as he felt for a pulse. Marcus, can you hear me? Please son, please be okay. The crowd of people pressed closer, their phones capturing every terrible moment. Someone in the crowd screamed. A small child started crying loudly. An elderly woman put her hand over her heart and looked like she might faint. Karen stood frozen in place, still holding the taser, slowly beginning to understand the horrible thing she had just done. The teenager was lying on the ground not moving, and scattered all around him were official-looking papers that clearly showed an MIT acceptance letter and scholarship documents. "Oh my God," someone in the crowd whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "He really was just a kid. He really did get into MIT." Judge Williams cradled his son's head in his arms, tears streaming down his face. "Stay with me, Marcus. Please son, please don't leave me. Help is coming." The paramedics arrived in what felt like hours but was actually only 4 minutes. As they worked on Marcus, checking his heart and his breathing, Judge Williams carefully picked up the scattered papers from the floor, his son's dreams and achievements literally scattered around him because of violence and hatred. Who are you?" Karen finally managed to ask, her voice barely louder than a whisper. Judge Williams looked up at her with eyes full of pain and anger that went deeper than anything she had ever seen. "I am Federal Judge Robert Williams of the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And you just used a weapon on my son for the crime of being excited about getting into college." All the color drained from Karen's face. A federal judge. She had just attacked the son of one of the most powerful judges in the country. The phones that had recorded everything would make sure this moment lived forever on the internet for everyone to see. I didn't know," she said, stumbling over her words. "You didn't know?" Judge Williams' voice was quiet but carried the weight of 30 years of seeing injustice in his courtroom. "You didn't know that a young man looking at electronics in a store wasn't committing a crime? You didn't know that reaching for identification isn't a reason to attack someone? You didn't know that the color of a person's skin doesn't tell you whether they're good or bad?" The paramedics had Marcus on a stretcher now, getting ready to take him to the hospital. His eyes opened slowly and he looked around confused and scared. "Dad?" he whispered weakly. "I'm here, son. I'm right here with you." As they wheeled Marcus toward the ambulance, Judge Williams turned back to Karen one final time. "In my courtroom every day, I see what happens when people make quick judgments based on prejudice instead of facts. I see lives destroyed by people who didn't know any better. Today, you almost destroyed my son's life because you didn't know that he was human enough to deserve basic respect and dignity." Karen watched helplessly as the judge followed his son to the ambulance. Around her, the crowd slowly broke up, but the phones had captured everything. By that evening, the video would be seen by millions of people. By the next morning, it would be on every news channel in America. At Riverside General Hospital, Marcus had to go through many tests to make sure the electric shock hadn't hurt his heart or brain permanently. The doctors said his body would be fine, but everyone knew that his mind and spirit had been damaged in ways that might take years to heal. "I was just looking at video games, Dad." In the days and weeks that followed, support poured in for Marcus from all across the country and even from other countries around the world. MIT released a public statement saying how proud they were to have accepted such an outstanding young man. The robotics community, scientists, teachers, and students rallied around Marcus. Civil rights organizations held press conferences demanding that Karen be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But in the quiet moments at home, Judge Williams watched his son struggle with what had happened to him. Marcus, who had always believed that working hard and getting good grades would protect him from the worst prejudices in society, now understood the harsh reality that his father had tried to shield him from for 16 years. "I keep thinking about what she said, Dad," Marcus told his father one evening as they sat in their living room. "About how she didn't believe I could get into MIT. Like it was completely impossible for someone like me to achieve something like that. Marcus, you are brilliant, kind, hardworking, and destined for greatness. One ignorant person's opinion doesn't change any of that. But there will be other people like her, won't there? People who will look at me and see what she saw instead of seeing who I really am." Judge Williams struggled to find the right words. He could lie and tell his son that things would be different, that education and success would protect him from prejudice. But his many years on the judge's bench had shown him that this wasn't true. "Yes," he said finally, deciding that honesty was more important than comfort. "There will be other people like Karen Mitchell. But there will also be many, many more people who will see your brilliance, your character, and your potential. The challenge is not letting the Karen Mitchells of the world define how you see yourself." 3 weeks after the incident, Karen Mitchell sat alone in her small apartment, unemployment paperwork spread across her coffee table. The video had been viewed over 50 million times. Her name had become synonymous with racial profiling and abuse of power. Every job application she filled out was met with immediate rejection once employers searched her name on Google. She picked up one of the pieces of evidence from the lawsuit, Marcus Williams' MIT acceptance letter. As she read it, she learned the truth about the teenager she had viewed as a threat. Marcus Williams, 4.0 grade point average, captain of the robotics team, 1580 SAT score, volunteer tutor at the community center, winner of 3 state science competitions, member of the National Honor Society. The teenager she had attacked was actually everything that society claimed to want in young people: smart, hardworking, kind, and dedicated to helping others. The irony was overwhelming. She had spent 23 years thinking she was protecting innocent people from criminals, when in reality she had become the criminal herself. The lawsuit settlement came 3 months later. It was a significant amount of money that would help pay for Marcus's education and compensate the family for their pain and suffering. But no amount of money could undo the damage to a 16-year-old's view of the world and his place in it. Marcus did go to MIT that fall, just as he had always planned. His father drove him to the campus in Cambridge, Massachusetts, both of them remembering that day in the mall when college had seemed like just another reason to celebrate. Now it carried the weight of everything they had learned about how cruel the world could be. "You know what the hardest part is, Dad?" Marcus said as they unpacked his belongings in his new dorm room. "What's that, son?" "I still think that gaming setup was really cool. But now every single time I think about it, I remember lying on that cold floor, wondering if I was going to die just for wanting to take a picture of something I thought was neat." Judge Williams hugged his son as tightly as he could. "Marcus, please don't let her steal your joy. Don't let her prejudice become a prison that you carry around with you for the rest of your life." It took time for Marcus to heal. Therapy helped him work through his feelings. The love and support of his family and friends helped him remember who he really was. But the scars remained, invisible wounds that would always influence how he moved through the world. Years later, Dr. Marcus Williams graduated from MIT with the highest honors possible. He went on to develop revolutionary technology that helped millions of people around the world. But he also became a powerful advocate for justice and equality, using his success and his platform to speak about the day when a security guard's prejudice nearly destroyed his faith in humanity. Karen Mitchell never worked in security again. She eventually found a job in a warehouse, far away from the public eye, living every day with the knowledge that her moment of prejudice had been captured forever and seen by the entire world. Sometimes, late at night when she couldn't sleep, she would think about the brilliant young man whose dreams she had tried to crush, and she would wonder how different things might have been if she had simply seen him as a human being instead of a threat. The video still appears on social media sometimes, usually when people are discussing racial profiling and police brutality. It serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly prejudice can escalate to violence, and how the assumptions we make about people based on their appearance can destroy lives in just a few seconds. But the story also tells us something else, about a young man who refused to be defined by the worst moment of his life, who transformed his trauma into motivation for success, and who proved that no amount of prejudice can dim a truly brilliant spirit when it's supported by love and determination. Marcus Williams still carries his MIT acceptance letter in his wallet to this day, not as a reminder of the pain he experienced, but as a symbol of his ability to persevere through anything. Because sometimes the most powerful response to people who refuse to see your worth is to prove it beyond any shadow of doubt. The incident at the mall lasted less than 10 minutes. Its impact will last forever. But in the end, it wasn't Karen Mitchell's prejudice that defined Marcus Williams, it was his own inner strength, his family's unconditional love, and his refusal to let one person's limitations become his own. Justice, as his father had taught him through both words and example, isn't always swift or obvious. But it is inevitable for those who are brave enough to demand it and strong enough to wait for it. And in that hard-learned lesson, a federal judge's son discovered that true justice isn't just what happens in courtrooms with judges and lawyers, it's what happens when good people refuse to accept that prejudice and hatred are just the way things are, and can never be changed. The story ends not with revenge or bitterness, but with resilience and hope. It ends with a brilliant young man who chose to rise above the absolute worst moment of his life and use that experience to make the world a little bit better and a little bit safer for the next teenager who might find themselves in his shoes. That, perhaps, is the most powerful and lasting justice of all.